This is Ryan, Abraham, Connor Morrissette, USCFootball.com. Instant analysis here at the Galen Center on a Friday. USC announces that the new head basketball coach will be Eric Musselman. We got to hear from President Carol Folt, Jen Cohen here at the press conference, and of course, Eric Musselman. Jordan Moore did the emceeing of the whole thing. Big production. You had the band, you had the spirit leaders out here, a bunch of boosters, and a lot of people around the athletic program who are excited. It seemed to be a very upbeat affair here, introducing Eric Musselman. Connor?
Definitely, it was a big production. We got a lot of the introductory head coach press conference stuff where called it his dream job, which I actually believe is true because he has roots down in San Diego. His mom lives in San Diego. She was able to come up here. Jen Cohen talked about how Eric can help us build a winner here at USC because he's been to the two Elite Eights and the Sweet 16 at Arkansas. So good vibes. I think everything's really good. I did like how Eric Musselman talked about, though, hey, it's one thing to say it right now, but we'll see what the team looks like in November. They know they have a lot of work ahead of them, and I'm excited to see the roster he puts together. They're going to have to hit the transfer portal really hard, and over right behind the camera here, Eric Musselman's talking to Isaiah Collier, and we all know that Isaiah Collier, 5-star freshman point guard, everyone thinks is going to the NBA draft, but maybe Eric Musselman, his first order of business, is trying to convince him to stay, so we'll see. Yeah,
it's been a whirlwind. I think he talked about it, like, as soon as the job opened, there was interest on his side, there was interest from Jen Cohen. Carol Folt said that was like the person that she had zeroed in on, so it seemed like this is where this was going as soon as Andy Enfield left for SMU. Some positive words said about Andy Enfield from everybody. Positive words from Eric Musselman about his time in Arkansas and what they were able to do there. So it didn't seem like this was one of those bad breakup things. A lot of talk going in the Big Ten, but just seeing what they were saying, it just seemed there was like kind of a lot of positivity, and somehow both Jen Cohen and Eric Musselman knew that this was sort of going to be the match that they wanted to do.
They seem like a great match, and Eric Musselman talked about how the leadership at USC was really attractive, from Carol Folt to Jennifer Cohen, and I don't know, in the past, Ryan, you could be able to speak to this better than I can. Does Eric Musselman pick USC if some of the past people in charge are in charge? I think that is something that we should be talking about, because now with Jennifer Cohen and Carol Folt and Lincoln Riley and Eric Musselman, good things are happening here at USC. And Eric Musselman, Chuck and I talked about it on the podcast last night. I don't know how long he's going to stay, but we should see results fairly quickly. Now, in year one, can we expect USC to get to the Sweet 16 or make the tournament even, because they're kind of starting late in the game here recruiting? That might be too much to ask, but I think in year two, certainly, and then in the future, for 5 or 6 years, however long he's here, USC will certainly be a team that I think will make the tournament every year because of how well he recruits. And just looking at his track record, what's going on with USC's NIL setup, the people at the top, a lot of good things are happening, and I think that's going to lend itself to having a really good basketball program.
Yeah, we'll talk about the roster and the staff in a minute, but just it was fun, something that did come up, and it's the fan support. Eric Musselman, 3 years in a row, I believe they had sold out all of their tickets in September for the team, and he felt like if you look at their attendance numbers before he got there and what they were, he felt like he had something, him and his staff had something to do with that, the product on the court, and they were able to sell out, feeling like that's something you could do here. Obviously, the attendance at USC for basketball has just not been historically good, but he felt pretty confident they could get in there and have a positive impact on that.
If you build it, they will come. And the Evan Mobley season at USC, it was a shame it was COVID. So there's no evidence to point to like, okay, USC has this great team and these great prospects. They've had some really good teams and they've had some really good prospects. But that, I feel like, was the year where if they were fans in the stands, they would have come out to see Eric Mobley. So recruiting is a big part of getting people in the seats, and I think Eric Musselman will do a great job of that. And he talked about how Lindsey Gottlieb and the women's team, getting Juju Watkins and just the run they went on, that sort of sparked some life into a program that was, for better or worse, lifeless, or for lack of a better word, lifeless for the years before Lindsey Gottlieb got here. I think you can see something similar with men's basketball. It might take a little bit more time. Bronny James is probably going to leave, and he was a big reason why the Galen Center was full for a lot of games this past season. I do think, though, if you recruit at a high level and you put out a winner, and there's no COVID, God forbid, that could lead to more people going to the games, and I think Eric Musselman's the guy to do it.
Yeah, to get people to games, you need players, and right now there's not a lot of them. But he talked about, they landed last night. He was up at 5-something in the morning, making text messages, texting anyone that was committed to the program. He didn't get into specifics with any player, didn't mention, he was asked about like Bronny, didn't really talk about that, was asked about specific transfers, like you can't talk about until they're signed. But it seems like, today he's like, yeah, basically after this, that's what I'm going to be doing. is recruiting, because they are kind of behind the eight ball a little bit. The timing wise isn't great. Other coaches have been able to recruit the portal harder. So it seems like that's the order of one. He said there's a lot of important things that have to happen, but the most important is building that roster.
Absolutely. He said he expects potentially a couple guys from Arkansas on his staff to follow him, but the staff isn't even worked through yet, at least publicly. I'm sure behind the scenes he's already worked on the staff, but nothing is set in stone right now. He wasn't able to announce anyone who's going to join him, so the staff needs an overhaul. The roster needs an overhaul, and I think right now that he's done with his media obligations, yeah, you're right. He said he woke up at 5:15 and he was calling people, probably took a break to do this, and now he'll go right back to the phones, because he mentioned how they are behind the eight ball, and someone asked him about, are the top prospects already gone? Is it too little too late? He said a lot of them are committed, but we're going to keep working and we're going to build this thing to the best of our ability. I do think there is still enough time to build a strong team, even though it's challenging, Ryan, with only right now Harrison Hornery as one of the key returners. Arrington Page hasn't announced anything, and Vincent Iwachukwu today leaves, so they're really light. They have no guards. If the season started tomorrow, they'd have no guards, so I think that's where you got to start.
Season doesn't start tomorrow, but I think his personality and I think he has a lot to sell, and so I think he will have an opportunity to build this. And what we've seen, you got Final Four games tonight. We've seen teams in the tournament building from guys from lower divisions, so I think you can bring in effective players. And he talked about it, like sometimes you recruit guys for 4 years, sometimes it's one. So I think we've seen recently people build rosters with complete staff turnovers and complete roster turnovers and still make runs in the tournament.
Well, look at what wins right now. It's Zach Edey, who's been at school for a really long time, and the guys at UConn, yeah, they have one really good freshman, but it's a lot of guys who've come back. And I think when you put together a John Calipari team, what we've seen is it's a lot harder in the era of the transfer portal to win with just one and dones. You got to go and get some older, more experienced guys. So it was really cool. Josh Cohen, the guy who committed following Musselman going to USC, he was a UMass transfer who's committed to Arkansas. He's now going to come to USC. He's a 6'10" power forward. I think it's going to be his 5th year next season. And those are the guys who can really help you, because their long-term projection might not be as good as some of those diaper dandies, but in the here and now, those 5th-year guys, as we've seen in the NCAA tournament this year, they're the ones who make the key difference in March. And we might not be talking about a guy named Josh Cohen a decade from now, and we'll probably be talking a lot about the guys on Kentucky. But who cares? It's all about winning games in March. It's all about winning at USC, and I think Eric Musselman understands that. I expect to see a lot more older guys transfer in pretty soon.
Yeah, so I think he's going to get to work on that right now, and we'll see. We'll keep you up to date. You got a transfer portal tracker going on over at USC.
I have to do a lot of updates to that today, yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff. Who knows? Maybe he gets a Bronny or someone to stay. We'll see. But, I mean, once you have the man there and he gets to talk to people, it might be like, nope, I want to go somewhere else, or it might be like, yeah, I want to come play for you. And then, of course, guys could come from the portal from Arkansas, guys that they were recruiting at Arkansas, he could come to USC. And the recruiting class that Andy Enfield built, he's going to work on that, trying to keep that. So there's a lot of work to be done, but I think, it just, the vibes here were just more positive, like, okay, this is where things would need to go, where Musselman was a guy that made runs in the tournament year after year, Sweet 16s, Elite Eights, and where USC was like building the rosters well, but maybe not making those kind of runs. So I think there's some positivity that you can get a good roster, but also have success when it counts in March.
Definitely. And Andy Enfield, 11 years ago, when he came from Florida Gulf Coast, they had that great run, but the track record of Musselman was better than the track record of Enfield's at that time, and I think that speaks to what Andy Enfield was able to do. He left the program better than when he got there, which is significant. Even though the roster's kind of in shambles, just the USC brand is in a better spot, in my opinion, and that allows you to go out and get an Eric Musselman, and slowly but surely, I think USC basketball, they're taking some steps in the right direction. I don't know if 11 years ago you got a guy from the SEC who'd been to 2 Elite Eights, a Sweet 16 in the past 4 years. I think that's a sign of the times, and that's a really significant progress for USC.
All right, any final thoughts here as we wrap it up at the Galen Center?
Well, I thought Isaiah Collier was for sure gone, but if you're for sure gone, why are you showing up to the next coach's press conference and speaking with him afterwards? So I haven't talked to anyone. I can only take away what I saw with my own 2 eyes behind the camera over here, but that makes me think there's more of a chance than I anticipated of him returning. We'll see. A lot has to happen, but if you can build around Isaiah Collier, a second-year Isaiah Collier, that is massive, and that could really, really help USC and jumpstart this post-Andy Enfield rebuild. So that's, I think, the biggest news of the day, besides Musselman being hired, that Isaiah Collier showed up and he talked to Musselman afterwards. Massive.
Yeah, that could be huge. I mean, that would be a good, like a cornerstone of this recruiting class. He was talking with Gavin Morris most of the time. He was like, they were right behind me. So Gavin's a recruiter, so maybe we'll see if maybe we'll talk with Gavin. Hey, do you think it's gonna stick around?
And you get paid now, so it's not like you got to go to chase the money. The money's better at the next level, but it's pretty good here too.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here in the Galen Center. Eric Musselman, the new head coach for USC men's basketball. For Connor Morrissette, I'm Ryan Abraham. Make sure you check out uscfootball.com for more.